Welcome back to Blake's Den, and this is my 1989 Austin Mini Designer project. And in this video I'm going to get the wheels on the car and get the car on the ground for the first time in about 5 years. So let's make a start. So in the previous videos I got the rear subframe mounted and the rear brakes fitted. One thing I've noticed since I've connected up the handbrake cable is that the rear brakes are a bit stiff. I can just about turn it. When I've got the car back on the ground, I want to be able to use the brakes. I'm not going to use the hydraulic brakes for two reasons. One, I've not bled the rear brakes yet. And two, I'm pretty sure the front discs will be seized, or the calipers will be seized, and as soon as I press the pedal they all just jam up. So I don't want to touch those, but I do want to use the handbrake. So first thing I want to do is get the brakes adjusted on the rear so that the handbrake is fairly effective. So I think the first thing I need to do is actually connect the handbrake back up. So inside the car, this is where I keep all my stash of parts. The handbrake assembly, fairly easy to sort out. So there's this clevis which goes on there, and there's a split pin, hopefully you can see that. That goes through the handbrake here, and then in between the back end of the clevis there's this bolt, and that goes on there. And that gives you your adjustment, so you tighten that up, tightens up your handbrake. So I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes getting this together, and yeah, we can then adjust the rear brakes. I was able to get that into place just by yanking the cable, and then we've got a handbrake which works. We've got a little broken plastic sort of guard thing here, or metal guard thing I need to replace, but that's not critical for what we're doing now. So next job is to get these brakes adjusted so they actually do something and actually hold the car on a hill. So I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see this very well, but there's a square adjuster on the back here, and I'm just going to wind that in using my square spanner. Obviously I greased all of this when I rebuilt the brakes, so it should turn fine. Now I can turn it by hand. So I'm just going to turn it until I start to feel, okay, that's probably a bit too much drag. Yeah, maybe it's a bit less. Right, so I think that's good. So what I'm going to do is pull the handbrake on now. It's a couple of clicks. And yeah, it's actually made no difference at all. So, bit more adjustment required. I may have to do one side and then the other and keep jumping back until it kind of feels about right. Situation update, I've tightened up that nut a bit more and I've tightened up the adjusters, so there's a little bit of drag. Obviously it'd be easier to turn the wheels once I've got the wheel on, obviously, but there's a little bit of drag on both sides. Sorry for jumping around here, but if I then go in the car and pull the handbrake on, so 3 clicks, nice and firm, that's rock solid, it's not going anywhere, bar tight. Yeah, I think that'll do the job and hold it in position, hopefully. Can always nip it up, obviously I've got no interior in or anything, so very easy to make a final adjustment. Alright, let's get some wheels on. So I've got one of the original wheels here, 12-inch 145/70R12. They will be getting reconditioned and I will be getting new tyres on it. This is purely just so I can move it around. What I'm going to do is take this opportunity just to give the threads on the wheel studs a good grease with copper grease, so anti-seize. So I don't think the wheels will be on for long, but it kind of makes sense to do that now. And also these wheels, they have a wheel trim which gets held on by the nuts. I'm not going to put the wheel trims on for now, so I'm just going to get this lined up. Let's try again. A lot easier than doing this. If you've got a car which has wheel sort of bolts, they're absolutely terrible because you've got to sort of hold the wheel for ages and line it up. Wheel studs, definitely the way forward. And then I've got the original wheel nuts, which have the little plastic washer on for retaining the wheel trim. So I'm just going to put those on. And notice I'm not using the impact gun here. Be very easy to put these on and just whiz them on, cross thread them, damage the wheel stud, and then you've got to take the drum back off and the hub off and then press in a new wheel stud. So I'm just doing them up by hand, and I'll go around with the I'm not going to use a torque wrench, but I'll nip them up with either the breaker bar or something, because I'm not actually going to be driving on these. If I do go driving, it's going to be very low speed, and it's certainly not going down the road. So yeah, I'll get these on. We'll do the same on the other side. It's amazing the difference it makes just getting those wheels on. It looks like, well, a Mini again. Yeah, I know it's odd. Right, fronts, as expected, these are seized solid. So if I use the power of my foot, yeah, I can't turn that hub. I suspect what's happened is the rubber pipe on the calipers swells up. That retains pressure, which forces out the pads. Also, as well, the bores get rusty and corrode, and they'll stop moving. So, working on the front brakes, I've had a bit of an idea what I'm going to do. These are really seized, not turning. What I'm going to do, the whole caliper needs rebuilding, and I need new brake lines on it anyway. So I'm going to actually try and pop off the brake line, see if that releases any pressure. And then if it doesn't release any pressure, that's fine. I'll just whip off the caliper, and I'll just have no caliper on it for a bit whilst I'm sort of moving it around and moving it to a different orientation in the garage. So we'll see if we can get that brake line off. Looks very crusty. Oh, you wouldn't believe this, but off camera I found the spanner 5/8 inch. I put it on the nut and it just came off straight away, like really loose. So I thought I'd be struggling with that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pinch off the brake line, because say these are going to be replaced anyway. So put some mold grips on there, just to, I might have to tighten that up a bit, just to stop any fluids from leaking out. And then I'll whip off that pipe, and then we'll see what happens. So as I'm going to replace the brake lines anyway, I'm just going to cut them. Some tin snips, and there we are. Simple enough, and then that'll allow me to unwind this and see if there'll be a bit of fluid leakage. There's a little copper washer there as well, so I'm going to let that drain out. So with that pressure released, it's still seized, so I'm just going to take the caliper off, and say they need rebuilding anyway, so it should just be 2 bolts to undo. There's. They came out really well. That one came out really easy. So let's see what the bottom one's like. So with that pressure released, it's still seized. So I'm just going to take the caliper off, and say they need rebuilding anyway. So it should just be 2 bolts to undo. There's. They came out really well. That one came out really easy. So let's see what the bottom one's like. There we are. Now that spins freely, so we'll just do something a bit more permanent on the brake line, just so I can have my vice grip back. Here we are, both calipers off, and they will be refurbed. I'll do a separate video on that. I don't know if you can see on that, but how swollen the brake lines are. This happens with rubber lines. Yeah, I guess this one's not as bad, but yeah, I'll be getting new lines on it anyway. I'm not sure whether to go down the braided hose route. Braided hoses don't swell like that, but they can give a firmer pedal feel. But I remember when I did drive this Mini, it was quite a firm pedal anyway, because it doesn't have a brake servo, so I may just stick with rubber pipes. Right, onwards. Next job to do is put the wheels on, which are currently over here. So I'll do that exactly like I did on the rear. Bit of copper slip on, put the wheel nuts on, and they may need a bit of air, I'm not sure. But if they need something, I'll put some in. There is 4 wheels on the wagon, so this is looking good. There we are, just in case you didn't believe me. There we are. Right, there's a couple of housekeeping bits I need to do. First one being the exhaust, so let me take you around the other side. Oh, the exhaust. I don't have a back box on, and as such it's just hanging there in free air at the moment, so I'm going to fathom a way to temporarily tie this up so that it doesn't sort of flop around on the ground, drag along the ground and stuff like that. So I've got a bit of a cunning plan. I think I've got an idea which might just work. Also, I probably should have done this before I put the wheel back on, but here you go. Also as well, I've just noticed these tyres. They're obviously good for rallying and wheel spins. They're good for driving over the sea, but your horn doesn't work. So, yeah, not sure if that's what those symbols mean for some reason. You join me under the Mini, and what I'm planning on doing is I'm just going to put a cable tie around the subframe, a bit like that. Let's keep it loose for now. I then pull the exhaust over to the middle. I mean, one option was just to do that, but I did think actually about running the car, which obviously would make the exhaust hot, which would make this fall off. So I was thinking about wrapping a bit of welding wire around instead, or I could just do a bit of welding wire around there, couldn't I? Yeah, that might be the better option. If I can feed it round, bear with me. At least the cable tie is going to sort of hold it in position. Actually, we'll use both. We'll raise it up with the cable tie, but then we'll wrap the welding wire around, and should the exhaust get hot, then in the cable tie fail, the welding wire will hold it in position. So all I want to do now is put a little twist in that. And get that tightish, and then we'll just put a few twists in, and that'll do as a temporary measure. There we are. I'll just tuck that up here out of the way. Good. Right, also as well, I need to, well, I don't need to, but I want to put the rear window in, which has been out for several years, because I need to be inside the car to operate the handbrake when I get this down. So I don't want the window in the way. So let's do that now. So here's the window, looking quite dirty. It's held in by sort of a couple of screws at this end, and a couple of screws on the bracket there, which does the lock. I raided my cupboard of spares, and look how organised I am. As well as having a can of Fanta. Look what I found, rear window screws. So I shall put those in. That's the window back in. Really straightforward. Pushed it in, and the rubber sort of held it in position. Got inside, 2 screws, 2 screws. And I'm going to leave all this barn fine dust on it, because that'll increase the value of the car. Right, we're very close to getting this down now. So what my plan of action is, I'm going to lower the front so the back goes up. Once the back's up in the air, I'm going to stick 2 ramps under the back to support the back wheels. Then I'm going to lower the lift down fully, pull it out, but at the same time there's a whole lot of rubbish which has ended up under there I'll need to pull out as well. So I'll have to do that. So I'm going to set 2 and we'll get this done. So I've tipped it forwards, I've got the ramps underneath. I've put the handbrake on while I remembered, because obviously no brakes. Now I'm just going to lift up the front end again, and then I can lower the lift and then pull that out, hopefully. Right, let's see how this goes. It's going to be a bit tight getting it out, but I'm hoping it'll come. So swapped over to another jack now. So hopefully this should go down onto the floor. I do believe it's on the ground. Took some air in that tyre because it was a bit low. And now's the sketchy bit. I need to roll it off these ramps with no brakes, except I've got a handbrake. So what I'm going to do is, obviously I've opened the garage doors because I don't want to smash into them, but I'm going to take the chocks away. I'm going to climb in. I'm going to take the handbrake off and rock it a bit. And then I'm going to use the handbrake to steady it as I come down. And if it all goes wrong, I'll whack it into first gear. And if it goes really wrong, then that's going to be a very interesting insurance claim. Wish me luck. Checking how steady it is before I get in. Obviously you've got no seat, so this is going to be fun. I can't press the brake. Where do you want to go? Right, that didn't work. Didn't want to go, so I'm going to try plan B, which is try and push it from the outside and work the handbrake at the same time. Ta-da! It's down. We can say that's a success. He's down and on the ground for the first time this decade. 2018 or 2019. I think it was 18 when I started. Takes a while, almost as long as Project Binky. But yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Obviously the back end is sitting really high, as you can see. It's new suspension, so it needs time to settle. I've also got no interior in it, and no boot lid, no spare wheel, no battery, so I've got a lot of weight missing from the back. The front suspension is completely collapsed, old suspension with no shock absorbers, so it's going to sit a bit lower at the front anyway. But yeah, I'm happy with that. This means I can now turn it round, work on the front end over here where all my tools and stuff are, and I can tidy up my garage. So I'm really pleased I've got that done now. It just, you know, it's progress. Seeing it on the ground for the first time in ages, making it look like a Mini again. It's sort of quite invigorating, quite good really. So I'm happy with that. Yeah, there's quite a lot more needs to be done, obviously. I mean, looking at the bigger picture, front suspension needs rebuilding. The front subframe needs all painting and cleaning up. The engine needs probably coming out, cleaning up, painting, whole engine bay sorting out. But in terms of bodywork, I think we've got this little lip to do here. and 2 door skins possibly, and I think we've broken the back of it. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did filming it. If you got any questions, let me know, particularly about the CJ Autos car lift. It's one of the best things I've ever bought, so ask me any question you want about that. If you liked it, press the like button. Also, please feel free to subscribe. It costs you nothing and really helps out the channel. So I'll say bye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.